Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Professor Eucalyptus is here for your viewing pleasure. Or rather, listening pleasure, as it were. Now, with the up-and-coming Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon games coming out this November, I figured I would bring forth an idea for Nintendo to possibly take a look at. Now, as of right now, this is not actually a definitive idea per se, but it's an idea nonetheless. So here's the idea. So far, I've managed to get a good idea wrapped around a pretty interesting Pokemon. Of course, it's going to be powerful. Of course, it's going to be powerful enough to contest with my most despised arch nemesis of all time in Pokemon competitive play, Mega Mewtwo Y. And yes, for those of you who don't know, I am a Pokemon fan, among other things. But for the most part, potential unknown facts aside, this Pokemon is actually something I've been wanting for quite a while. A Rock Dragon type. This stems from my original idea for a Pokemon called Volcanic, which was originally supposed to be a fire type. Basically the Mega Evolution for Magnetar. However, as time went on, I decided that Volcanon would be its own Pokemon, and before I get a chance to shoot off the letter off to Nintendo in regards to said Pokemon, they go on ahead and create the aforementioned Pokemon and make it a fire-water type, been resembling something out of the steampunk era, with the ability Water Absorb, which I can somewhat understand, but at the same time, the signature move of Steam Eruption is kind of understandable, but then again, we don't really know all that much about Volcanion, apparently. Other than what we've seen in the movies and what hackers have managed to accomplish using PK hacks. One of the most recent 3DS game hacking systems, to my knowledge, for Pokemon games. But aside from Volcanon, which eventually wound up being a Rock Dragon type in and of itself, I decided to change the name of said Rock Dragon type to be something that actually takes after one of my other big loves and interests as far as trading card games are concerned, Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, forgive me for crossing the line as far as copyrights are concerned, but I'm pretty sure that the name and concept is entirely original, even if the design concept isn't. We are looking at what is basically a literal rock dragon. Now, the design is easy enough to get. Just look at Yu-Gi-Oh's Mega Rock Dragon, which is a really massive Pokemon, potentially rivaling even Primal Groudon in terms of size. Now, according to its weight alone, it is easily taken out by the moves Grass Knot and, of all things, Low Kick, due to the fact that those moves become more powerful the heavier the target happens to be. In other words, Pokemon with heavy metal are going to have issues with Low Kick and Grass Knot, while on the other hand, Pokemon who can learn Heat Crash and Heavy Slam are going to have some pretty serious trouble against it. So, in other words, it's kind of a two-edged sword. But on that note, the Pokemon's name is, of all things, Gigadrake. Not to be confused with Gigalith, which is a pure rock type with the sturdy ability and kind of resembling a quadrupedal boulder with crystals sticking out of it. No, I'm looking at something by far more drastic in terms of size. And, well, awesomeness factor in terms of appearance. No, what we're looking at is basically a cross between Mega Rock Dragon and, shall we say, well, maybe not so much Mega Rock Dragon as is basically a rock dragon with crystals sticking out of it. Possibly even a Mega Evolution for Gigalith, as it were, due to the design concept. It would also have the ability. Crystal Armor, which basically negates the entire type matchup table and introduces a new set of weaknesses into the mix, with everything else being neutral for the user in question, as well as throwing in a little bit of Iron Barb / Rough Skin on top of it all. We're talking an ability that basically renders moves like Power Gem, Ancient Power, and of all things, the Pokemon's very own signature move, 4 times super effective against it. Even Diance's Diamond Storm is going to be dangerous against such a Pokemon. And while the defenses are right up there with Shuckle and Bastion, God forbid should those tanks get nerfed. My line of thinking is Gigadrake has its own signature called Diamond Club. It basically has a chance of making the target Pokemon flinch, and all the while being guaranteed, all the while being guaranteed to be the exact same type as the user. So in other words, if the user is a dual type, the move is going to share that exact same typing. In other words, if Smeargle were to use Sketch on the move, it would be normal type. Whereas another Pokemon using the move Copycat or Mimic would throw their typing onto the move as well. Basically giving it, basically making things quite interesting. But all the same, this is all in order to make type matchups with a move, and the Pokemon whose signature is this move that much more dexterous. And it's all too appropriate to say that while this move is 100 power, it has 5 PP for the fact that this move shares its typing with the user's own type. In the meantime, if this Pokemon were to be introduced, there would have to be more crystal-based moves, as it were, in order to ensure that this Pokemon did not end up becoming too overpowered. Like for example, here there's a few random ideas. Emerald Wave, or maybe try something like, oh, I don't know, Sapphire Cannon, whatever the case. The move itself is going to be great, while the Pokemon as a whole is going to be vastly overpowered because its speed isn't exactly anything to laugh at. Its defenses are pretty close to matching Jynx's defense form's defenses, and its physical attack is right up there where it should be to make such a move as its signature really hurt. As far as the ability goes, however, you can easily just alter its ability, or just plain and simply negate the ability to bring the type matchup chart back into effect. But other than that, I'm afraid that I'm pretty certain that altering its defenses will definitely be a good strategy against such a Pokemon, as well as using moves to alter its stats so it's not as much of a threat, but at the same time, you might want to keep an eye out for something like this. In the meantime, as far as Gigalith is concerned, I'm going to keep on using that. However, this is Professor Eucalyptus, signing off. Zyhelva.